Hello and welcome to Makers.dev, episode number 83. Chris, I can't think of a single interesting thing to say about the number 83.
Okay, well, that is interesting in itself, I think.
I suppose so. How you doing? We had a longer than usual gap this last time. It's been 10 days since we last recorded a podcast. What have you been up to?
That's right. I took a very nice vacation over the weekend. We left the kids with the grandparents, and we went up to Lake Michigan, where there's really nice beaches, like Florida-level beaches. They're just only, it's only warm for 3 months out of the year, really. So that's the trade-off. But yeah, super nice, and came back relaxed. And then I found a plumbing problem and a bunch of weeds growing in my lawn. And so
Oh no.
I've been trying to solve those two things. But otherwise, a nice personal vacation.
I lived one summer in Cleveland, Ohio, really close to Edgewater Beach, which is on Lake Erie. And I was so surprised because you think Cleveland, Ohio,
Yeah.
that has a beach? That doesn't make sense. But there's lots of beaches. And yeah, they're nice. And the water was not the best water. There weren't a lot of people swimming in the lake. And one of the most popular things to do on the beach is collect beach glass, which is these little scraps of colored glass that have been broken up, and they look like I don't know, medium size, small pebbles that are like translucent in the cool glass color. And so at first I was like, that's so cool that there's all this beach glass. But then I realized, like, oh wait, it's because this beach is very dirty, and like this is just trash that's been rebranded as beach glass. And no, it's really cool. But I have like 2 pounds of beach glass from when I lived there over a summer, and I was very surprised that it was like the sand was really nice, and there was nice beach stuff to do, and you could see the water still, and then there was a power train from a car just like off in some shrubs. So
It sounds like Cleveland.
yeah. At one point, I found out there's a river that feeds into the lake, and a nickname for it is Burning River, because it caught fire several times through history. And because there was just like this thick layer of sludge on top, and it was the olden days, so everyone was using candles and actual fire for things, and the river would just like routinely catch on fire, and the entire river would just be this burning like hellscape. Yeah.
Well, that's gross. This beach was significantly cleaner than that. Yeah, we saw people cleaning it while we were there, and so the sand is super, super like clean and yeah, it was good.
The Cleveland River has also since been cleaned up, and Lake Erie, I think, is also clear. Well, cool. I'm glad you had a good time. I didn't mean to derail it with the story how gross Cleveland is. Cool. You mentioned something else that you did besides going on vacation. Oh, the house domestic duties that you're battling grass and plumbing and grass problems. Tell me about those.
Oh, there's not much to tell. I learned all about the difference between centipede grass, carpet grass, nutsedge, and there was one other one. But yeah, it's really, really difficult to tell the difference, actually, unless you let it go to seed, at which point it's easy because the seed pods look different. But yeah, so I was like pulling out grass, and I was showing you like the different, you got to count the hairs on the intersection between the leaves and stuff. It's ridiculous.
Talk about shaving a yak. We started the problem with you like, oh yeah, I'm going to push forward this GPS competition for Kaggle. We ended it with like, I'm counting the hairs in this piece of grass that I pulled from my yard.
Yeah.
I can't remember if we talked about this on the last podcast, but talking with you about your house update stuff has me feeling more appreciative of living in a condo. They recently raised the HOA fees to something like $320 a month.
Yeah.
And Sarah and I were like, that's so much money. And they take care of everything outside of your house. So like if there's any roof problems, if there's anything with plumbing from the city, any sort of interaction you would have with the city, they landscape the outside, they cut the grass, they do all these things that I just don't even have to think about. So it feels like a good medium. Like it's more responsibility than an apartment, and it's less responsibility than a house. And for right now, for this period of my life, I'm enjoying the less responsibility.
Yeah, I think I told you, like, we bought a house kind of early, like the market was good and stuff, and so we bought a house early, and I sort of wish we would have stayed in. We were in an apartment at the time, but like, yeah, a condo or a townhouse or something. It's just so much work to have a house, and you could like pay people. Like, I'm going to pay someone to fix this plumbing problem, but I have to figure out who is the best person to pay and like find them
Yeah,
and schedule them, and maybe they don't show up, and then I have to spend a work day waiting for them and have to like,
Yeah.
it's just a lot of work. Yeah.
Something that I realized about myself too is I really like solving those types of problems. In a situation where I have a plumbing problem, I like to just sit with it and become a plumber and get all the tools and the fancy wrenches and the machinery that I need to do it. And it doesn't make sense the first time, and it doesn't make sense at all if I'm valuing my time as worth it. But I enjoy the process of that. And then I enjoy, when I go to someone else's house and they're like, I have this problem. I have some knowledge of that problem, and I might be able to solve it. Or I could take my tools and lend it to them and show them how to do it. Or I can make a YouTube video about how to solve that problem. That's what I prefer to. So, like, encountering those problems now would be non-ideal for me because I don't currently have the bandwidth to be able to dive into that sort of thing. So that's a realization I've had about myself. I like becoming an expert in these sorts of things.
So I like that too a lot. The two things I don't do that for though are any electricity in the walls, because that can kill you, and plumbing especially in the walls, because so this has to do with our main like sewer line or whatever, and so like I could fix it, but it's in the wall and I won't find out if I did it right for like a few years down the line when like my whole drywall falls off with mold or something, you know. So like I'm gonna pay someone to do it right. And
reasonable. That makes a lot of sense. Electric is kind of dicey. My dad right now in renovating Jenga Village is teaching himself electrical stuff, and he was just very blasé, just like, I just like made sure it was off and disconnected. It's like the main power lines coming from the street.
Right.
And he did the same thing with asbestos. He cleared out a bunch of asbestos. Like, Dad, what are you doing? He was like, I waited till it was a rainy day so it was moister so it wouldn't get in the air. Like, that stuff can stay in your lungs forever. It doesn't. That's the danger of asbestos. It's not biodegradable. But I think that's the cool. You have two projects going on that I'd love to ask you about. First one is this GPS competition that ends tomorrow.
That's right.
What's the deal?
That's right.
Where do we stand?
It ends tomorrow, and we are in 10th place out of 11 gold medals.
Ooh, so close.
We keep, like everyone is waiting to the end to put their best submissions in, I guess. We have a few ideas, but nothing life-changing, and so. And it's easy to go up or down. Up or down 5 places is like trivial in these competitions. So, if we fall 2, then we're out of gold. If we rise at all, then we're in it. So, we'll see. We have 5 more submissions tomorrow. We have couple crazy ideas and a couple safe ideas, and then I will know in something like 30 hours whether I get another gold or not. We'll see.
I've been so surprised when you've given me updates on this. Within a palm, you'll be like, we had this update that increased our accuracy by a millimeter. And that's a significant amount of distance. What's the current gap between you and first place? How far are we talking?
Us in first place is like 60 centimeters. Like
60, okay.
Yeah, the first place guy, he's a person who won last year. He has a PhD in GNSS, so he knows what he's doing. And so we're not going to get anywhere close to first place. But the gap between us and the people behind us is 3 centimeters.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's, man, like even 30 centimeters. I've been sort of acclimatized to this because I've heard you saying these numbers, but we're talking about a global positioning system. We're on the scale of the Earth, and you're within 30 centimeters of first place. And that's what it's amazing to me. I don't want to lose this wonder and joy that you're able to solve problems of this sort of a complicated nature and compete at a global scale. And the accuracy that we're dealing with is an amount of space that I can make with my hands. It's really, really cool.
It is pretty cool. And for me to understand all the different pieces of it and stuff is neat. So I can get frustrated when we don't. We went up today by a millimeter and we wanted it to be a centimeter. And so I was upset because it was a millimeter, not a centimeter.
What does your work look like for the rest of today and tomorrow, this down to the wire? What are things that you're doing in the last few hours of this sort of competition?
So I have 3 different things I'm trying. I'll talk all about it next week when the competition is over, but 3 different things. 2 are sort of wild. One is just like a general, like a incremental improvement, hopefully, on what I've already done. And then the rest of the team also has 2 or 3 things we're going to try. We only have 5 submissions left, so we have to be a little careful. And then one of the hard parts of Kaggle competitions is always picking your final 2 submissions. You get 2 submissions to try. And so you almost always pick the one that did the best in the leaderboard.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just did that, then you have the problem of leaderboard overfitting. We talked about that before. And so you also pick one that you think did the best on the training data, but for some reason didn't look like it did the best on the leaderboard.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to figure out which one of our submissions we think actually did the best in the training data. So we'll probably pick that and the top of the leaderboard one and see what happens.
I am curious about how you would go about picking one that you think would do better on the actual data, if not just looking at the score. I guess you'd have to know some internal workings of how the function was operating and what's going to go into that decision. How do you decide which one you think is going to do
so
the best?
when I talk about training and tests, remember that you have a whole chunk of data, and then before the competition starts, they split off part of it to be the test data.
Mm-hmm.
And then they further divide that test data into public and private. And then your public score is based on, say, 70% or whatever. In this case, sometimes it's as low as like 10% of that test data set. But your final private score is based on the private data set that you don't know about. So what you don't want to do is overfit to the public part of the test set. You can, because you're getting feedback on how you're doing there, it's really easy to like just optimize for that bit, but neglect the private test set. And so you can actually be doing worse on the private test set without knowing about it. So the way you counteract that is you run exactly the same processes that you're doing on all the test data, but on the training data, because you have a lot of training data. Now the problem there is if you've derived your algorithms based on the training data and then you use it to predict on the training data, then that's no longer good. So you have to like hold out part of your training data as well. So it's actually gets really complicated. But yeah, so you figure out how your algorithm does on your training data, and then use that to to basically guess which algorithm will be the best on the private set.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So this is based on your internal testing, based on how you've separated out, holding out your own test data based on you have your subset of test data based on the test data that they give you. So you have your own internal leaderboard of all of your submissions of how well your algorithm did based on your own internal testing.
But essentially, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Cool, that's a good method. I'm curious about this now. What's the input for this function? Is it like a single point in time, or do you get the GPS points a little before and a little after? Or I guess it would make more sense if it was a little before, because that's the data that you would have in the real world. How does that work?
So for this specifically, they give you all of the points for the entire run at a time. And they specifically call out that they're doing this so you can look both forward and backward in time. You're right, in the real world for real time that you only get backwards in time, but they specifically call out that they want this double, like they want to give you all the test data basically, so or all the run data, because I guess whatever they're using it for, they have all the run data. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah. So you're right, in normal real world, like if you're predicting real time location, then it would be just the data behind you. But for this competition specifically, they give you all the data for the entire run.
Okay, so for you holding out some test data, you're just holding out some complete runs?
Yeah, so normally you do k-fold validation. So k-fold, k is a variable. It's usually like 3 or 5 or 10. So you basically take your training data and you chunk it into 5 chunks. You hold out an entire fold. You train all your models on the rest of it, and then you test on the fold you held out. And then you do the whole thing again for the second bin, then the third bin, then the fourth bin, then the fifth bin, and then usually you average that together to get so that way you basically you train however many k, so you train maybe 5 different models, say, and you get scores for your entire training set because you've held out one at a time. So that's usually how you do it.
Got it. K-fold validation. That's a cool method. I like it. That's GPS competition. Talk to me about AcornChat. We talked briefly about how you had an actual user who had this live on their website who was getting chats in. What's that like?
I did. I got 3 more trials, so another week, another 3 trials. Still, no one has paid for it yet of the people from this. Well,
you said the free trial is for a month, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
So you get a month. I also emailed everyone who I am allowed to email. So if they come straight from the Slack App Store and they don't click a button, I think we talked about this too, then you can't actually use their email. So for everyone who either did click the button or signed up the regular way, I emailed them. So that's like 7 people and got 0 responses. So
okay.
Yeah, that's all right, I guess. So I'll just keep doing that though. And it was, a short, basically, it was just like a, if you have any questions, let me know. It was longer than that, but that's basically what it was saying.
Are you planning on following up? Do you have a sequence to send them?
I could. I'll probably. That's a good question. I don't know. I just emailed them yesterday, and so I will probably follow up if they continue to use it. So if people keep using it and getting messages, then I will continue following up. But yeah, people have gotten real messages on it, and it works. So
that's fantastic. Congratulations! It took a long time to get to this point.
That's right.
It's live. It's doing the thing. That's great. I had the same sort of problem. I gave Rachel the task of going through all of my paid users and trying to get them on phone calls. And I think, now that I'm saying this, I need to go back and check if this is what she actually did. But I think she sent a sequence of 4 emails to, I think, every paid user I have on the new plans, which I think is something like 100 people. No, it would be like 200 people. Oh, I didn't. Okay. I think the list I sent her was only 50 people. So this might be part of it that I just didn't send it to my full list. I think I got like 1 phone call from that.
Yeah.
And that seems really low. So what I started telling her was, anyone who has any sort of support request that's any sort of complexity. So like exclude people who just want to cancel their account. But I guess I would actually want to be talking to them. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyone who has any sort of support ticket of any complexity, push for a phone call. I want to be talking to more people. And that's so much more organic, and that's so much more like the user is so much more motivated to do that, because in the first case, I'm reaching out to them saying, hey, how are you liking it? I'd like to ask you some questions for my own benefit. And they're going about that. These are busy people. They got stuff to do. They don't care about me. But if it's someone who's reaching out to me already, who has a problem that they believe I can solve, that I can solve, and I'm reaching back to them saying, hey, I would love to talk to you about that on the phone. Don't you love it when you're trying to get a problem solved and you can talk to an actual real person and not a robot? We can do that. We can solve your problem. And then I get them on the call, and I'm able to solve their problem right away. And I'm able to get a much better understanding of what the problem is. And then I have some leeway to be able to ask them, like, oh, by the way, how'd you hear about FileInbox? And, is there anything else about the product? And I get a better understanding of the entire job that they're trying to get done with FileInbox. So I think that's my growth hack for talking to more customers. Anytime you get any sort of support request, push to get that via video call.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. I did have someone reach out to me of the people who signed up, and I just answered his question. Maybe I should have asked for a phone call or something. Yeah.
I think it's easier to do that. I found that it's easier to do that.
Yeah. Has anyone used your video chat feature yet?
Not a single person, Chris. Not one. And I had I actually forgot to do it the last 2 days, but I've had it on for, I don't know, maybe 8 hours over the last 10 days. And yeah, not a single person. I also just saw a tweet that said that the automatic pop-up for a message is annoying. Yeah. And I do have that on right now, so I need to turn that off. But I'm also wondering, is that just annoying if you see a video of someone? And also the way I have it set up, it plays the same part of the same video in between page views. So I'm wondering if someone goes to a page view or something. But it was a cool experiment. I have it set up now. The results are inconclusive.
Okay. Has that affected your conversion rates at all? Do you have enough conversions to tell if that has affected your rates?
I don't know. And well, I'd be able to see just like total paid users, which are it's abysmal for me right now. It was like 2 last month. So if that had any sort of significant change, I'd be able to see that. But that leads into something I wanted to talk to you about, which I guess we can talk about right now. I'd like to talk about analytics.
Yeah.
So like Google Analytics is sort of the standard thing. And the standard thing I get from people, and this is through talking to like SEO experts and people who specialize in Google Ads, I'm like, what analytics do you use? And everyone's like, well, there's Google Analytics, but that's really complicated and bad, but it's free. But like if you invest a bunch of time, you can figure out how it works. And there's other stuff too. And the one I'm familiar with is called Amplify, which is really expensive. I think it's like hundreds of dollars for the traffic I'd be sending to it. So I don't love that, but it has me in this state of mind of like, why don't I just build a thing that does analytics? And I know for AcornChat, I think you did a lot of the analytics internally, right? Yeah. That's just like saving in the Rails app. Why did you do that instead of something like Google Analytics? Or or
Yeah.
Fathom or
So
something.
I've used Google Analytics before, and so Fathom is another alternative that's more privacy focused if you want that, which costs money. But um, I think Google Analytics is good for web pages that you're going to like drive traffic to, but it's bad for in-app like tracking conversions and stuff in the app and like any of your in-app stuff. And since I'm a solo developer and I want to track app stuff as well as web page like visit stuff, it's basically easy enough to log all my page views in Rails with like the IP address and the user agent and all that stuff. And so that's what I did. As a result, my analytics right now is not very robust. I think we talked last time. Like I don't actually have a good way to see like how many visitors I have that aren't robots. That's a big one, and actually lead to any kind of conversion. And so, but I do have all the data. So all I have to do is go back and like make a page that shows all of that. Yeah, so that's what I chose to do, basically because I've had the same experience with Google Analytics. Like it's there, but it's not wonderful in a lot of ways. I could use something like Mixpanel or something like that, which is more of like an app tracking solution, but that costs money and takes engineering time anyway. And so as a solo dev, I just decided to save it all in a Rails database and I'll figure it out later.
Okay.
Yeah.
How are you saving it in the Rails database? You just have a table of page views or a table of users, and you're storing the pages that they visited with a timestamp?
Page views with a timestamp. Yeah. I'm storing all the data that I can reasonably have thought to save, and then later I'll go through and sort it all, basically.
So each row is a page view, and then you're storing like the user ID based on a cookie or something?
I don't remember, but
if I visit your page and then I refresh the page, does that show up as 2 page views, or can you see that I'm the same person? I guess it would be 2 rows because you're just making a new page.
It's 2 rows for sure. I don't remember if I'm actually saving the user ID as a cookie.
Okay.
And I may not be because GDPR actually says you can't for Europe.
Yeah.
So then I'd have to figure out who's in Europe and then put up a cookie pop-up, which sounded really annoying. So I do know like user agents are relatively unique, and so you can figure it out even without cookies because the user actually sends the user agent, right?
Yeah, there's fingerprinting you can do too of like the fonts the person has installed, and
there's a lot of CSS
like
stuff. Yeah.
Their screen size, their screen resolution.
Yep, all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. I think I want to do this. I just saw a tweet this morning that was somebody tweeted how to come up with good product ideas, and step 1 was have a good idea, and step 2 was work on it. And then step 3 was build a thing that helps you get the first idea done. And then it said that idea is the good idea. This feels like that sort of thing. It also like the thing I'm imagining. So in traction, a core thing that they say is you need to be able to see how well your traffic from each of these channels is converting. That's the core question you need to be able to answer to judge which of these traction channels makes the most sense to be investing more in. And right now in Google Analytics, that's a hard question to answer, and that should be like the basic thing. How well is each page converting, and where did that traffic come from that had me converting? So I feel like the thing I need is just for each page of my app that's public facing, I want to know how many total people landed on it, how many people converted, and where did those people come from? And then I want to be able to see like, okay, how effective is this page on Google Drive file requests? Well, I had this many people visit it, and then I had this many people who went from there to directly to the sign up page. So okay, that counts as a conversion. And I had this many people click on the home page first and then go to sign up. So okay, that counts as a conversion. And I had this many people read another article and then read another article and then go to the home page and then sign up. So that also counts as a conversion. And that doesn't seem like it should be that hard. The end result I want is just like a table of each page and the conversion ratio, how well each page is converting. And then I want another table of like, hey, all your traffic coming in from Google Ads converted this well. And maybe I want to dig a little bit more into that and see like, what was the path that those people took to get there. But fundamentally, I just want to see the thing that traction wants to boil you down to is like, how much money did you pay? And then how much money did you get back from that? So for Google Ads, I want to see the question, how much money did I make from Google Ads in the last period? And to see that, I would need to see, well, I had this many people come in from Google Ads, and then here's the path that they took and the uh, 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 conversion rate of each of those pages, and then this percentage of them converted into customers, and then this is how much money I've made from that. And as long as that number is higher than the number that I paid, then keep dumping money into it, and if it's not, then back off. And I know I can do that with things like Amplify, and Amplify is very expensive, and I feel like that's not that hard of a problem. And then there's weird things I would want to do with it, I'm sure, once I like have done it myself, similar to like learning how to be a plumber. I enjoy the process of like digging in and making analytics less spooky, and that I understand it at the level of it's just rows in a table.
Yeah, and that's what, so like Google Analytics, people reach for it because it's free, but it's actually not designed to do that. And so that's why people think it's difficult to use or complicated or whatever, because it's actually not a good tool for that. So yeah, simplify something like Amplify or Mixpanel or something is better. But yeah, they cost money, and they're also more complicated than you need for, like, Mixpanel is great if you have like 18 different data sources and they all are triggering events and you have different marketing pages and all that stuff. But you don't have, right? You have the ability to write to a single database. So it's probably just as easy for you to write your own as it is to use Mixpanel or something like that. Which is funny because I'm telling you to go do development stuff instead of paying money for the thing.
It's development in the name of marketing.
That's
so
right.
I feel like it counts for marketing.
It's also, I think it'll take you about the same amount of time whether you build it yourself or not.
Yeah.
And if you build it yourself, then you don't have to pay money for it, and you can customize it however you want.
Yeah. And the core thing I want from this is just a better understanding. Like, I open up Google Analytics and I just don't understand what's going on. And they've changed it several times since I've had an account. And it's nice that I've had it for so long because I can see things like, it's nice to see the graph of monthly traffic going back to what would it be, like 2013.
Right.
That's a graph that I'm happy that Google Analytics has. But like, man, I could be getting so much more valuable data from it. So I think what I'm going to do is just like leave Google Analytics on, because why not? And it might be collecting something that might be useful in the future. But for the core metrics that I'm trying to make business decisions on, I want to see each page and how well they're converting, and each traffic source and how well the traffic source is converting. And if I just, and that's like one page, it's 2 tables. And if I had that, that's something I can actually be making decisions on. So yeah, it would, I like how you said that it would take me less time to just build that myself than it would to integrate one of these other things of like Amplify or something else. And then I know that I'm getting exactly what I want. I know that I totally understand it. And if at any point in the future I want to customize it, I can do that. And this might then turn into another SaaS that
Right.
I could sell it to other people to do it. I wanted to pull in here the marketing changelog idea that we've been chewing on for a while, because this seems like an opportunity to pull that in, because the core question I want to be answering as a business owner is like, so I in talking to Jonathan Zacks, I've just made these changes to these marketing pages. What I would love to see is making those changes change your conversion rate from this to this. And here's a screenshot of the page before, and here's a screenshot of the page after, and here's some more intelligent understanding of it than just the screenshots of like, the core thing that you did was add these links and remove these links and add these keywords maybe. And so from that, you can see this was the conversion rate before and this is the conversion rate after. So yes, that was a good change that you did, and you have a number to tell you how good it was. Do you have any thoughts on that? Have you thought any more about the marketing changelog or how that might become a product?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good idea still fundamentally. But I also am not the person to do it, I think. So yeah, but if I was a marketing focused developer, then I would probably start by trying to find any company and charge them, $1,500 a month or something, and say, I will track all of your page views and all of your marketing changes, and I will tell you which ones were good and which ones were bad. So at the end of the month, you get a really nice report of everything that you did this month and whether how it changed conversions. Because businesses that are not large enough to have their own, like development team or like even like a chief marketing officer or something watching the stuff, but still might be doing, millions a year, especially like Shopify stores, say, for example. They could really use that data, and that's probably way more valuable to them than $1,500 a month. But they don't have the effort to sort of to do it. So yeah, if I was trying to get this off the ground, that's what I would do. Try to find anybody to pay me some number over $1,000 a month to do it by hand, and then figure out what they need before I actually built anything.
Okay, I would pay you $20 a month. Would you do it for 20?
No.
Okay, that's a good answer. If you said yes, we're about to need to have a talk. Okay.
I was trying to think of what I could give you for $20 a month. I don't think I could give you anything for 20.
That's fair. You could tell me I'm doing a good job already, and it's probably fine.
I will prompt you during our co-working sessions to work on it yourself. For
That
free.
sounds good.
How about that?
I don't want to pay you $20 for that though. I will continue to provide friendship and yes. Okay.
Great.
So I'm sort of going out of order on my notes now, so I need to rearrange these things. So the main thing I worked on the last 10 days is FileInbox. I worked 18 hours and 29 minutes on FileInbox, and that feels like a great amount of time to have worked on FileInbox. I am still only at a baseline working on it for 4 palms, or about 2 hours a day, and that feels really sustainable. There was one day in there where I was really chomping at the bit. This was after I had another conversation with Jonathan Zacks about like how much more money I could be making, and I just had this manic energy of like, I gotta finish this right away. And so I worked on it a little bit on Saturday, and I don't usually work on Saturday. I usually take the whole weekend off, and I found myself just sort of dreading it again and not being excited about it. And I was really excited going into it because I knew exactly the next work that I needed to do. But then in the middle of working on it on Saturday, I had this feeling of just, I don't like this. This is working on it too much. And so then I took all of Sunday off, and then on Monday I was excited to work on it again, and I've been jamming on it every day since then. So I think there is a optimal amount to be working on this every day, and I think it's probably more than 2 hours, and it's less than 5 hours. And if I'm working on it a little less than I have the capacity to, I think that makes me hungry to work on it the next day. Like right now, we just ended co-working, and I know exactly what the next thing. I have this open problem to work on that I'm excited to work on, and I think that is now energy that feeds into the next day. So I might want to experiment with like a palm at a time, especially doing more palms on marketing. I only worked for 3 hours and 3 minutes on marketing this over the last 10 days, which that's not enough. So I think an experiment I want to do going forward is I do 4 palms on FileInbox, and I do at least 1 palm on marketing, and we try to bump that up to 5 palms total. So if I do all 4 palms on marketing, like that's okay too, because that's a new type of work that I'm getting used to. But also an acceptable day is 4 palms on technical stuff and 1 palm on marketing. So that's a high level overview. I want to just briefly cover the stuff that before I go into that, any comments on time allocation of developing and time and 4 palms a day?
Yeah. So people listening might think, 2 hours a day is nothing. I work 8 hours a day at my job. First of all, I will challenge the fact that you're actually working 8 hours a day. That's a different conversation, maybe. But also, like, yeah, if you work more, but then you burn out and don't do anything for 3 months, then of course it's better to do less and get more done in the long term. So yeah, I think if you're at a sustainable pace, that's great. We can experiment with increasing it, and if that doesn't work, then we can go back down. I think that's like trial and error is an okay way to figure out how much you want to be working on it. That's fine. Yeah,
cool. That sounds so reasonable coming from you. And sometimes when I'm telling myself that, I'm like, you're just making excuses. But no, yeah, I think that is actually a good sustainable way to do it. And it's like I'm enjoying every day. Every day I wake up and I'm like, oh, I get to do my little FileInbox, and I have my little routine, and I go and then I do my little workout, and I'm enjoying living life. I like it. So yeah, okay. It feels good that I'm doing this more sustainably. The specific things I worked on were I finished templated file names, which were surprisingly complicated to do, but now you can specify for a file, for a video or screen recording, you can specify that you want the file name to be named a certain templated thing. So like if you want all your submissions to be named with the submitter's first name in the file name and then some random string and then the timestamp, you can do that now, and then that should be pretty straightforward to do the same thing. Actually, no, that just works out of the box now with file uploads also. I don't love the interface for specifying it. I need to figure out some way that I can. It's like a handlebars string with variable names that are ugly, so I'd love to figure out how to do drag and drop things instead.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how to do like drag and drop of components into input fields. I think I've seen React libraries for that. Does anything spring to mind of how you would do that?
Yeah, I know you can't use input fields because input fields are very particular about what you put in them, but there are drag and drop things that use, so you can use what's it called, the div edit,
Content editable.
something like, yeah, content editable.
Okay.
So you can make a div look like an input field and then drag and drop things into it. Yeah, and there are libraries to do that. So
Okay.
yeah, just go look at it. There's probably a library that does it.
Okay. But the low level thing works. It's just like the interface to it I don't love right now. So that was good. Oh, and while I was doing that, I did that with test-driven development, which is just my new favorite thing. I'm on this kick now of any code I'm writing of any sufficient complexity. My brain just says, oh, why not write tests about it first? And I am just a convert into TDD because it's so much more straightforward. In the same vein as working for 2 hours a day on something just routinely, you get in the habit of it, and it doesn't really matter if you have good or bad days, and it's just a sustainable thing that works every time. In my youth, I used to go on these manic coding binges of like, I would start at 11 p.m. and I would go all the way through until like 8 in the morning. And then I would have a thing built. And then the next day I'd be exhausted. And then the next day I wouldn't want to do anything. And then a week later I'd go back to the code and be like, what the heck did I just write? I don't know how to do this, or I want to add a feature to it, but I'm terrified of doing it because it's all broken. And doing things with TDD is just like this really slow march where I don't have to hold hardly anything in my head at once. It's just the very next thing. And then, here's an edge case I hadn't thought of. Well, let me write a test for it. I write the test for it. It fails. All right. Now the only thing I'm doing is passing that test. And I go back to the code and I pass the test. And, oh, what's this? Another test failed. Okay, now I have to do these 2 things. But that's as complicated as it gets. And then, okay, I've solved the 2 things. Now I'm done. Now, it doesn't do this other edge case. And then I keep doing that. I love it. For everything I did this last week, I wrote a test suite about it also. This is something that I felt like was sorely missing from my old code base for FileInbox that was written in Rails. And I just lamented it. And, every feature I wrote was just this gamble of like, well, I guess I'll find out when a user emails me if something's broken. And now everything I'm writing just feels bulletproof. And I feel like, I'm writing, Google quality code that's running on Google infrastructure that is just going to work every time. And all of the cases where it could fail, I have thought of and built out a thing for, so it'll report back and handle it in the way that makes the most sense. So I like that a lot. I think we've talked about TDD before, and you said it's not something you do regularly. What?
It's not my favorite thing. We'll say that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. I'm reminded of that graph where you're like, it's like the noob who's like, I just write no tests and just do all my code, and then it goes up and it's like TDD all the things, and then it goes back to the monk and it's like, I'm just gonna write all my code and do no tests. I feel like you're climbing another hill, which is like beyond the monk, which is like, actually TDD's okay. just go up and down in these cycles, Yeah.
To be clear, I'm not doing this for everything. I'm
Right.
doing this for like mission critical things that are of any sufficient complexity. So I think you can, on that first hump of the graph, if you're writing tests for everything, that's too many tests. If you have like one integration test, that covers most of the things. If you have a more complicated test that's going through and like signing up for an account and then doing whatever the basic thing is to test if your entire application is working, like that covers most of it. Specifically, what I'm using these for is like weird functions. Oh, I wrote this function. I was telling you about it for the last few days. Called PMAP. I might change the name because there's another node package called PMAP. But I had this problem. This is going to tie back to tests. Just give me a second. I had this problem of having to do things concurrently, but not all at the same time, and they might fail. So I need to retry them a certain number of times. And that's a complicated process flow. Like, it's really easy to do things serially, just like one at a time. This would be in a sort of case like I need to download to a Firebase Cloud function all of the files for a response. And so that I would need to do all of those, and there might be like 1,000 of them. And then I need to upload those to Dropbox. So for each of those things, it could fail because of a network request. And I don't want to just be doing one at a time because that would take forever. Like, I have the bandwidth to be doing 3 to 5 at a time. But then any one of those could fail. So I don't like doing it serially because it would fail and that would be bad. And I don't like doing like promise.all because now I'm downloading 1,000 files at once and that's going to be dumb. So I wrote this function with tests all the way through. So it's just bulletproof. I know exactly, like, if there's ever a problem with this, I know it's not any of the things that I've tested for. And I give it a array of jobs to do, and I tell it how many I want to run concurrently, and I tell it how many retries I want to give it if the job fails or throws an error. and then I give it a callback function of like if on each retry, based on the error, like give me a function so I can see if I want to keep retrying it or update something else, and also give me a callback when it's failed, when it's run out of retries, and then I can do something else with it. And then the result of that on fail function goes into the result of the mapped result. And I'm so proud of this. I've used it 3 times already in my code base now that I've written it, and I just felt very clever and felt really good. That was another thing that I got done this last week. Have you ever run into a problem like that where you had to do a bunch of things asynchronously, but not all at the same time, and they could fail?
Not quite like what you're describing, but I understand the basic. Yeah, I mean the basic like shape of that problem I've had to do before, but not exactly the same way. Yeah. But that is exactly the type of thing that I think is really good to test, because it's not like, the thing I don't like testing is like, does this label appear on the screen? And it's like, well, I'm gonna see it, if as I'm testing it. But the thing I love testing is, does this particular asynchronous thing work in this very particular case? Yep. And oh, by the way, I'm going to use this 10 times throughout my application, so it had better work because it's a key critical piece.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where tests are great. So
yep. Yeah, I just made it so easy that's a conceptually really difficult function that ended up only being something like 30 lines. But I know that in every edge case of that, of like, what if the function you feed it is a regular function and not a promise, or it's not an asynchronous thing, that I handle that now. That the number of retries, should you call retry the very first time you try it? Well, no, a retry should be called like at least the second time you're trying to run it, because you're retrying it. All of that is just bulletproof. It works so well. So okay, that was one of the things. 2 other things. I finished Dropbox OAuth, and this was another case. I didn't write tests for this, but I just like fleshed out all of the use cases of when I'm authenticating Dropbox. There's a lot of different ways that can happen. Like I can authenticate and it can fail. The user can click cancel, or I can authenticate and then I can unauthenticate, or I can authenticate and then I can authenticate another page and then I can unauthenticate the first page. Well, what should happen to the second page? So I map through all those, and I like it. It's sane and it works, and the tokens refresh, and that feels really bulletproof now. And like I love serverless functions are just like, it's this entire class of problem that I don't even have to think about, of like, what if my server crashes? Well, they'll just on the off chance that Google's infrastructure is down, or the particular serverless function has crashed, they'll just spawn another one, and it's just this other node instance, and it's this entire category of thing I don't have to think about. So I can invest so much more energy into, is my part bulletproof? And I feel like yes, it is. I've thought through all the potential ways I think OAuth could fail, and I've accounted for all of them. And if it fails in some unexpected way, it's going to be reported on Honeybadger, and then I'll be able to deal with that. I'm just so, I don't know if you can sense my enthusiasm, but like clean, like bulletproof code, just, it gets me going. It's really nice. So the last thing that I'm working on, which is, I say the last thing I need to do before I start bringing in more beta users is file uploads. This core meat and potatoes, like this is the core thing that FileInbox does that people are paying me for. When they upload a file to FileInbox, I'm going to be able to sync it to Dropbox, and then Google Drive and OneDrive after that. And I'm in it, and I've been working on it for the last 4 days, and I have this beautiful PMAT function now to run files through, and it's complicated, but doing it through tests, it's just like I'm just marching forward just one step at a time, and it's getting it done. So that feels really good. I think, fingers crossed, I'm like a week. I think I'm a week out from starting to invite more people. And
nice. Is this a Christian week or a real week?
It might be a real week. It's for sure a Christian week. Yeah. One of the first people I'm going to bring on, not the very first person, but one of the first people, is a customer I have who bought a security audit from a third-party company, and they discovered that FileInbox was sending files directly to the Dropbox, and they had Dropbox installed on their computers. So they tried uploading a virus. And the current version of FileInbox was just like, of course, it's a file. Right. Someone clearly wants to receive this executable file. And so that came up in the security audit. So I had this fun conversation with them where I talked to the security auditors and like got more information about what they were looking for. And I thought that the file had been executed, but they were like, no, we didn't want to see it go through. We wanted to see that it was blocked. So now that's a thing that FileInbox is going to be able to do. And I told them 3 to 6 months. and I think it's going to be much more like 3 weeks because virus scanning seems pretty straightforward. So I have a handful of other customers like that. One person wants Zapier. A few people want Zapier integrations actually, and OneDrive integration and a few other things. But as I'm bolting these new features on now, I can be inviting the beta users and then fleshing out more things in the FileInbox serverless thing, and then this whole transition, I think, is going to take, I don't know. I would love to say that 3 months from now, I can shut down the Rails app. Feels like that's about the right timeline. And then doing marketing in parallel with that. And I feel really good about where I am.
That's cool. Yeah. A while ago, I asked, is your new version actually better than your old version or not? Virus scanning and, Zapier integrations are definitely things that would push that over the edge to be better. So, yeah, sounds good. Also, I'll say 3 months sounds very aggressive for when you can shut down the old version, because don't people like have links? I guess you can. I mean, you control the domain, so you can just redirect to the new version.
Exactly.
So they don't have to change their links.
No, and that's going to be a multi-stage process. Like for the beta users, I'm going to say
change your links.
So I have FileInbox.com, which is the old Rails app, and FileInbox.app, which is the new serverless app. So I'm going to say to the first beta users, like, hey, let's make the new page on FileInbox.app, give it the same name, and then let's make sure that works first. And then, okay, we're happy with that. I'm going to redirect your .com to .app temporarily. And then I'll do that for a few people. And then once I feel pretty confident in the new serverless infrastructure, then how am I going to do that? I think then I migrate everyone's data over to the serverless app, and then I'll just let that sit for a while and test it. And then I'll redirect everyone's page to the serverless app, and then I'll let that sit for a while and test it. And then I swap the two domains. Or I guess I don't even need to apply a domain to the .com, but I assign the .com to the .app, and then I turn off the redirects. And then everyone's just going to be running on the .com, which is the serverless one. And each stage of that, I'm sure something's going to go wrong, but hopefully I'm doing it in like manageable enough small steps that it'll be reasonable.
Okay, that makes sense then. I thought that everyone was going to have to actually do work on their end, which will take a year if you had to do that. But
they will have to. The next time they log in, they'll have to reset their password. And that was something I was chewing on for a long time, that I didn't need to put nearly as much thought into it. Like, well, I could, decrypt their passwords and then secretly, and then like create a new account for them on FileInbox. Like, so every time, starting now that they log into Rails, it's creating the account on Firebase with the new login. And I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say, I already know your email address. It's the new version of FileInbox. You need to reset your password. And I think that's fine.
Yeah. Every once in a while, apps will ask you to do that. So certain apps, like my bank, does that every 3 months, I think. So, which is annoying, but whatever. Like, people will do it. So
yeah. And as long as they have access to their email, and if there's any problems, I have Rachel to help me solve them, so she can she can manually reset their password or whatever they want to do. Cool. So that all feels really good. Oh, I wanted to mention in my chat with Jonathan Zaks, I said something about SEO that I thought was advice that he gave me, but I think I misheard what he was saying. I said that ideally every marketing page has an internal link to every other marketing page, and apparently that's not the case. He gave me a new rule, which is ideally you don't have more than 5 internal links in a landing page, because otherwise it starts to look really spammy, and Google starts to sniff out things. And what is 5? Is it 5? This whole thing I think is sort of cloak and dagger. Like we don't really know, but some people think sometimes that Google penalizes them sometimes when they do things like this. And certainly in the extreme case, if it's just a page with a whole bunch of links, Google really doesn't like that. So I'm going to be a little more judicious about internal linking. And he also gave me just a couple of small things to improve.
I think even when you said that last time, I don't think I thought that every page needed to have a link to every other page. I think I just thought he meant like you want a pretty dense web, so that it doesn't take a ton of clicks to get from one page all the way to another.
I see you understood his message even through my misinterpretation. Yeah, I think that's what he meant.
Okay.
I built a script that was like checking that every page had a link to every other page. And
Oh, I see.
yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, so and that's also easier to do, and would
Sure.
not be sustainable like as the number of pages grows. Um, After I chat with him, so the main question I've been asking him is like, how do I get MRR up faster? And he gave me a few more things to tidy up in SEO and a few more things to change in the pages. And the thing that I think we're landing on is that file sending makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of traffic going to file sending. A lot of current customers on FileInbox are like confused that they think FileInbox is a product to send it. I think I have a great I could have a hot take on what file sending looks like, and then if I look at that as engineering as marketing, I'm paying a couple cents in file storage in the extreme cases, mostly fractions of a cent. And that's now getting me in front of people who are sending and receiving files. So like on the page where they download the file, that is an advertisement for FileInbox. And I can say, hey, wouldn't you love to do these other things? Sign up for an account and you can do that. Wouldn't you love to have custom branding or bigger files or encrypted files or virus scanning? Sign up for an account. You can do all those things. Yeah, so that's something I think I would be doing like concurrently with the migration. This is like a 3 month-ish goal. I told Jonathan Sachs it would take me like a week to make this, and I stand by that. And I have to fit it in with like all this other stuff I'm doing. But I don't know. I don't know when it's gonna happen. I'd like for it to happen soon, and like I need to finish this transition first. And so
yeah. I would, if I were you, I'd feel just fine waiting until the transition is over, because if you try to do too many things at once, then you won't do any of them well.
Right.
So finish the one thing first, and then
Okay.
that's what I would say. But I'm
Jonathan
also not in your
Jonathan's
shoes,
a listener
so.
of this podcast. I can hear him sighing right now. He's not going to be happy with me. Okay. What a possible thing I could do that would get it done a little bit sooner is like I could build the sending feature in the serverless app, and then I could sort of slot that into the Rails app, and so when you land on the Rails site, it's like that part of it is the serverless app.
You could, but if that delays you for a few weeks, then like I don't know. I still think it's better to finish one thing before starting the next, but I could be totally wrong. Who knows? Yeah.
I'm also just jamming on like writing tests and slinging code. I'm having a great time.
Which is not marketing, Christian.
It's not marketing, but I'm doing one bomb on marketing every day, which sometimes is just reading a chapter of Traction. But I'm doing something.
All right.
So that's the stuff on FileInbox. I think that's all of the things I wanted to say about business. I have some personal updates. Sarah and I picked up our marriage certificate this last week, and we're not married yet, but we have like the piece of paper that we need to have signed, and then we'll turn it in. So that's exciting.
Very nice.
And Sarah is designing the wedding bands, and we've printed several iterations. I have a table in my office right now that's full of all these toxic resin things that we can like burn off that are like models of the ring, and we'll like try them on and then like wash our hands immediately afterwards. And I think I might print a prototype of that today in bronze. So that's really cool. I'm gonna do like when it's cast, it's gonna be my ring outside of her ring. They're gonna be like interlinked with a tube in the middle, so it's like made from the same metal. It's gonna be cool. And I also just have been jamming on routines like. I have this exercise routine I do called 5x5 that ideally I should be doing every other day. And being back home, I'm able to do that. And my gym is right outside. And so that's been working really well. And I am picking up meditating again. And I keep forgetting that meditating just makes everything in my life so much better.
Right.
And then I remember, and then I do it again, and then just everything is better again. So a note to myself in the future, and a note to you. If you ever notice like I'm in a bad place, just be like, Christian, are you meditating? And I'll probably say no, and then say you should meditate, and then I'll say I don't want to, and then you say Christian, and then I'll do it. Those are my personal updates. I think that's all I got.
That is all I got too.
Cool. Then I'll see you next week. Goodbye.